The warning alarms screamed through the station like dying animals. Red lights flashed in every corridor, every room, every hiding place where frightened families held their children close. Ambassador Valith stood at the command center of Outpost 17, watching the tactical display with all four of her eyes. Her species, the Silurians, were tall and thin creatures with skin that glowed softly in the dark. They had evolved on a peaceful moon where the gravity was light and the weather never changed. They were scientists, artists, and philosophers. They were not warriors. And now they were going to die. On the display, 34 red dots moved closer to the station. Each dot was a Kreth warship. The Kreth were conquerors. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they could not take. 3 hours ago, they had appeared at the edge of the system. 2 hours ago, they had destroyed the station's small defense fleet in less than 20 minutes. Now they were coming to finish the job. Ambassador, said Commander Tholis, his voice shaking, the shields will not hold for more than 6 hours. Perhaps less. Valith's glow dimmed. That was how her species showed fear. When a Silurian was scared, their light faded until they were almost invisible. How many people are on this station? She asked, though she already knew the answer. 3,217, including 412 children. 412 children. Valith closed her eyes. The Kreth did not take prisoners. They did not show mercy. When they broke through the shields, they would kill everyone. The children would die screaming, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Send the distress signal, she said. Commander Tholis looked at her with surprise. Ambassador, the nearest collective fleet is 18 cycles away. They cannot possibly reach us in time. Send it anyway. Send it on every frequency. Broadcast our location, our situation, the number of civilians, everything. Valith turned to face her crew. They were all looking at her with the same dim glow of hopelessness. Someone might hear us. Someone might come. Tholis nodded slowly and turned to the communications console. His thin fingers moved across the controls, and the station's emergency beacon came to life. It sent the distress signal outward in all directions. A desperate cry for help that traveled at the speed of light through the cold darkness of space. In the crew quarters below the command center, a young Silurian mother named Lisha held her daughter close. The child was only 6 years old, too young to understand what was happening, but old enough to know that something was very wrong. Mother, why are the lights red? The little girl asked. Lisha tried to smile, but her glow was so dim that she could barely see her own hands. It is just a drill, my love. Everything will be fine. But everything would not be fine. Lisha knew this. She had seen the tactical display when she walked past the command center. She had seen the number of enemy ships. She had seen the broken pieces of their defense fleet floating in space like dead leaves on a pond. She thought about her husband, who was on a research vessel 3 systems away. He did not know what was happening. By the time he found out, it would be over. Lisha would be dead. Their daughter would be dead. And he would have to live with that knowledge for the rest of his life. I love you, Lisha whispered into her daughter's hair. I love you so much. Back in the command center, Ambassador Valith watched the Kreth fleet get closer. The lead ship was a massive dreadnought, a floating mountain of weapons and armor. On its hull was the symbol of the Kreth Dominion, a red claw crushing a star. The Kreth believed they were the strongest species in the galaxy. They believed they had the right to take whatever they wanted, and perhaps they were right. Perhaps strength was all that mattered in the end. Ambassador, said a young officer at the sensor station, I am detecting a response to our signal. Valith's heart jumped. From the collective fleet? No, Ambassador. The signal is coming from a different direction. From the officer paused, checking her readings twice. From the Sol system, the command center went silent. Every Silurian stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the officer. The Sol system. The Death World. The place that civilized species did not talk about in polite conversation. Valith felt her glow flicker with a new kind of fear. She had heard the stories about the Sol system. Every species in the galaxy had heard them. The third planet from that yellow sun was a nightmare world. It had crushing gravity that would break Silurian bones. It had a poisonous atmosphere filled with a dangerous gas called oxygen. It had extreme temperatures that swung from burning hot to freezing cold. It had violent weather that could destroy cities. It had predators that hunted for sport, diseases that mutated constantly, and natural disasters that killed millions. And somehow, against all logic, that world had produced intelligent life. Humans. The galaxy did not know what to do with humans. They looked soft and harmless at first glance. They had no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. But they had survived their death world for millions of years, and that survival had made them into something terrible. They could heal from wounds that would kill other species. They could function without sleep for days. They could adapt to almost any environment. They were persistence predators who had once hunted their prey by chasing it until it collapsed from exhaustion. The Galactic Accord had chosen to quarantine them. Humanity was tolerated but not welcomed. They had their own small territory, and they were expected to stay there. What does the signal say? Valith asked, her voice barely a whisper. The officer listened to her console, her glow flickering with confusion. It says they are coming. 11 ships. They will arrive in 4 hours. 4 hours. The shields would still be holding in 4 hours. But did Valith really want humans to come? What would they do when they arrived? Would they fight the Kreth? Would they save the station? Or would they be even worse than the enemy already at their door? She had no good choices. She had only bad choices and worse choices. Do not respond to their signal, Valith said finally. Let them come. At this point, we have nothing left to lose. She turned back to the tactical display and watched the Kreth ships approach. Behind her, the communications console beeped softly as more signals came in from the Sol direction. More human ships were changing course toward Outpost 17. The monsters were coming. Valith just did not know which monsters she should fear more. In her quarters, Lysha held her daughter and prayed to gods she was not sure existed. On the Kreth dreadnought, Warlord Sithak sharpened his claws and dreamed of conquest. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, 11 human warships burned toward the station at maximum speed. The distress signal continued to broadcast, echoing through the void like a heartbeat. Someone was listening. Someone was coming. The only question was whether that was a good thing or a very, very bad thing. Admiral Jonathan Cole was drinking his third cup of coffee when the distress signal came through. He was sitting in his ready room aboard the UEN's Prometheus, reading reports about supply shipments and crew rotations. It was boring work, but boring was good. Boring meant nobody was dying. The door chimed and Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka stepped inside. She was young for her position, only 28 years old. But she was one of the best communications officers in the fleet. Right now, her face was pale and serious. Sir, we received something strange. A distress signal on the old emergency frequency. Cole put down his coffee. Old emergency frequency? That is the one the Galactic Accord species use. Yes, sir. It is not meant for us. We are not supposed to be monitoring it. But the signal bounced through a relay station at the edge of our territory, and we picked it up by accident. Tanaka handed him a tablet with the translation. It is from a Silurian outpost. They are under attack by the Kreth Dominion. 3,000 civilians. 400 children. Cole read the message twice. His jaw tightened with each word. The Silurians were a peaceful species. They had never done anything to the Kreth. They had never done anything to anyone. And now the Kreth were going to slaughter them like animals. How far? He asked. 4 hours at maximum burn. But sir, we would be entering collective space without permission. The Galactic Accord was very clear about humans staying in our own territory. If we go there, we could start a diplomatic incident. Maybe even a war. Cole stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars stretched forever in every direction. Somewhere out there, children were hiding from monsters. Mothers were holding their babies and waiting to die. And the rest of the galaxy expected humanity to do nothing because of some rules written by species who thought humans were too dangerous to be trusted. Yet, a channel to every United Earth Navy ship within range. Cole said. Tanaka hesitated. Sir, are you sure? Lieutenant, there are 400 children on that station. They are scared. They are helpless, and they are going to die unless someone helps them. I do not care about diplomatic incidents. I do not care about what the Galactic Accord thinks of us. Someone is in trouble, and we can help. That is all that matters. Tanaka nodded slowly. Yes, sir. I will set up the channel. 5 minutes later, Cole stood on the bridge of the Prometheus and spoke to every human ship captain within range. There were 11 ships in total. Some were small destroyers. Some were heavy cruisers. And one, the Leviathan, was a dreadnought, the largest and most powerful warship in the human fleet. This is Admiral Cole, he said into the microphone. You have all received the distress signal from Outpost 17. A peaceful species is being attacked by the Kreth Dominion. The Galactic Accord expects us to ignore this because it is outside our territory. They expect us to stay in our little corner of space and let those people die. He paused, looking at the faces of his bridge crew. They were waiting for his next words. I am not going to do that. I am going to take the Prometheus to that station, and I am going to stop the Kreth from killing those civilians. Anyone who wants to come with me is welcome. Anyone who wants to stay behind, I will understand. This is not an order. This is a choice. The response came within seconds. Every ship wanted in. Captain Sarah Chun of the Achilles was first. My crew votes yes. All of them. We are with you, Admiral. Captain Marcus Webb of the Nemesis was next. The Kreth are bullies. Someone needs to teach them what happens when they pick on the wrong people. We are coming. One by one, the captains responded. The Harbinger, the Valkyrie, the Thunderchild, the Iron Wolf. Each ship confirmed they were changing course toward Outpost 17. The last response came from Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Leviathan. Her voice was calm and cold, like ice over a deep river. Admiral, this is the Leviathan. Tell whoever is hurting those people that death is coming. We will be there in 4 hours. Cole nodded and closed the channel. All ships, maximum burn. We have civilians to save. The Prometheus shuddered as its engines roared to life. Around it, 10 other ships did the same. The Deathworlder Armada began its journey toward Silurian space, leaving trails of fire in the darkness. In the crew mess hall of the Prometheus, a young Marine named David Park was eating lunch when the announcement came through. He listened to Admiral Cole's words, and then he listened to the details of the mission. 3,000 civilians, 400 children, an enemy fleet of 34 warships. David was 22 years old. He had grown up in a small town in Korea, the son of a fisherman and a schoolteacher. He had joined the military because he wanted to see the stars. He had never killed anyone in his life, but when he heard about those children, something cold and hard settled in his chest. It was the same feeling his grandfather had described from the old wars on Earth. The feeling of knowing what needed to be done and being willing to do it. He finished his lunch, went to his bunk, and started checking his equipment. Around him, other Marines were doing the same. Nobody was talking. Nobody needed to. On the bridge, Lieutenant Tanaka monitored the communications channels. The Silurians had not responded to their message. They probably did not believe that help was coming. Or maybe they believed it, but were too scared to hope. "Sir," Tanaka said quietly, "do you think they will be happy to see us?" Cole laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Probably not. The galaxy thinks we are monsters. They tell stories about us to scare their children. When we show up, they will probably think we are there to eat them or something. Then why are we going?" Cole turned to look at her. His eyes were tired, but there was a fire burning behind them. "Because that is who we are, Lieutenant. Humans have always been the ones who run toward danger when everyone else runs away. We are the ones who fight the fires, who pull people from wreckage, who stand between the weak and the strong. It is in our blood. It is in our bones. Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years, and we survived because we learned to protect each other." He looked back at the stars. "The galaxy can think whatever it wants about us. But when someone sends out a cry for help, we answer. Always. Even if they hate us. Even if they fear us. We answer because that is the only way we know how to be." Tanaka nodded and turned back to her console. She understood now. Being human was not about being strong or dangerous. It was about using that strength to protect those who could not protect themselves. The fleet continued to burn toward Outpost 17. Behind them, Earth spun quietly in its little corner of the galaxy. Ahead of them, 3,000 aliens waited to die, but death would have to wait. The Deathworlders were coming, and they did not plan to let anyone die today. 4 hours. That was all the time they had, and they would use every second. Warlord Sithak stood on the command deck of his dreadnought and watched Outpost 17 grow larger in the viewing window. The station was shaped like a flower, with long petals spreading out from a central hub. It was beautiful in a fragile sort of way. Soon it would be broken, and that would be beautiful too. Sithak was a large Kreth, even by his species standards. He stood 8 feet tall, with thick scales covering his body and claws that could tear through metal. His people had been conquerors for thousands of years. They took what they wanted because they could. That was the natural order of things. The strong took from the weak. The weak died or served. How long until we breached their shields? He asked. His tactical officer checked the display. 4 hours, Warlord? Perhaps less if we increase weapon power. Sithak smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. There is no rush. Let them suffer. Let them understand what is about to happen. Fear makes the killing sweeter. Around him, his bridge crew made sounds of agreement. They were all veterans of many conquests. They had destroyed dozens of stations like this one. The Silurians were soft creatures, barely worth the effort of killing. But orders were orders, and the Dominion wanted this sector cleared. Sithak was just about to return to his throne when the sensor officer made a strange sound. It was not a sound of confidence or pride. It was a sound of confusion. Maybe even fear. Warlord, the officer said, his voice shaking slightly. I am detecting new contacts. 11 vessels emerging from fold space at the edge of the system. Sithak waved a claw dismissively. The Silurians have called for reinforcements. It does not matter. We outnumber them 3 to 1. Prepare for combat. They are not Silurian vessels, Warlord. Sithak turned slowly. Then who are they? The sensor officer did not answer right away. His claws were trembling as he checked his readings again, hoping he had made a mistake. But the readings were clear. The ship profiles were unmistakable. They are human vessels, Warlord. From the Sol system. From the Death World. The bridge went silent. Every Kreth stopped what they were doing. Sivax felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Something cold crawling up his spine. Something that might have been fear, if he had been willing to admit it. The humans. The monsters from the Poison World. The creatures who had somehow survived a planet that should have killed them 1,000,000 times over. The Galactic Accord kept them quarantined in their own territory because they were too dangerous to let loose in civilized space. And now they were here. Show me. Sivax commanded. The main display changed to show the incoming fleet. The human ships were ugly things, all sharp angles and thick armor. They had none of the grace of Silurian vessels or the brutal elegance of Kreth warships. They looked like they had been built by creatures who did not care about beauty, only about destruction. The lead ship was massive, almost as large as Sithax's own dreadnought. Its hull was scarred from old battles, patched and repaired, and sent back to fight again. On its side was painted a name in the human language. Livathan. Open a channel, Sithax ordered. I want to speak to them. Before his communications officer could respond, the human fleet broadcast a message of their own. It came through on all frequencies, in crude but understandable galactic common. This is Admiral Jonathan Cole of the United Earth Navy. You are engaged in hostile action against civilians under distress. You have 60 seconds to withdraw. There will be no second warning. There will be no negotiation. Clock starts now. Sithax stared at the display. 60 seconds. The human was giving him 60 seconds to abandon his conquest and run away. The insult was almost funny. Almost. The human thinks he can threaten me, Sithax growled. He has 11 ships. I have 34. Does he not understand numbers? His tactical officer shifted uncomfortably. Warlord, the humans have a reputation. Their ships are built differently. Their crews can withstand forces that would kill us. They do not fight like civilized species. They are animals, Sithax snapped. Clever animals, perhaps, but animals nonetheless. We are Kreth. We do not run from anyone. Inside Outpost 17, Ambassador Valeth watched the same transmission with very different feelings. She had hoped for rescue, but not like this. Not from the Deathworlders. Not from the monsters that even the Kreth feared. What do we do? Commander Tholis asked. His glow had shifted from dim fear to something stranger. Valeth could not tell if it was hope or just a different kind of terror. We wait, Valeth said. We watch. And we pray. On the viewing screen, the human fleet was moving. The ships were not holding position at a safe distance. They were not forming defensive patterns or waiting for the enemy to make the first move. They were advancing, coming straight toward the Kreth fleet at full speed. They are charging, Tholis said, disbelief clear in his voice. They are actually charging at 34 warships. Valeth watched the human ships grow larger on the display. She had studied human history in her youth. She knew about their wars, their violence, their seemingly endless capacity for destruction. She knew that their planet had nearly killed their entire species many times, and each time they had survived through pure stubbornness and aggression. But she had also read other stories. Stories about humans protecting strangers. Stories about humans rushing into burning buildings to save children they had never met. Stories about humans standing between danger and the helpless, even when it meant their own death. The galaxy told two different stories about humans. One said they were monsters. The other said they were guardians. Valeth had never known which story was true. Now, she would find out. The timer is running out, Tholis said. The Kreth are not withdrawing. They are holding position. Valeth nodded. She had not expected the Kreth to run. They were too proud, too arrogant. They did not understand what was coming for them. They saw 11 ships against 34 and thought they would win. They did not understand that humans did not count ships when deciding to fight. They counted something else entirely. They counted the lives that needed saving. They counted the children hiding in station quarters. They counted the mothers holding their babies. And when humans did that kind of counting, numbers stopped mattering. 60 seconds have passed, Thola said. On the display, the human fleet opened fire. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when Deathworlders went to war. And the lesson would be written in fire and blood and the broken hulls of Kreth warships. Valeth watched, a glow shifting through colors she could not name, as the humans did what they had always done since the first days of their evolution. They protected the weak. They fought the strong. And they did not stop until the threat was ended. The battle for Outpost 17 had begun. The first shot of the battle came from the Kreth. Warlord Sithax, tired of the human admiral's arrogance, ordered all ships to open fire the moment the 60-second deadline passed. 34 warships unleashed their weapons at once, sending a wave of destruction toward the human fleet. It should have been enough. By every calculation, by every rule of space warfare, that much firepower should have crippled or destroyed the smaller human force. The Kreth had fought many battles. They knew how these things worked. Ships fired at each other from safe distances. Shields absorbed damage. And eventually, one side took too many hits and retreated or died. The humans did not follow the rules. The human ships did not stop to take cover or raise their shields to maximum. They did not slow down. They accelerated. They flew directly into the storm of weapons fire, twisting and rolling to minimize damage, moving with a coordination that seemed impossible. They are not slowing down, the Kreth tactical officer reported, his voice rising with confusion. They are still coming. Full speed. Sithax watched the display with growing unease. The human ships were taking hits. He could see explosions on their hulls, sections breaking away into space. But they kept coming. They should have been dead. They should have been debris. Instead, they were getting closer. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Admiral Cole gripped his command chair as the ship shook from another impact. Alarms were screaming. Half the displays were showing damage reports. The port engine array was gone, torn away by a direct hit. Damage report, Cole ordered, his voice steady. We have lost engine 3 and 4. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 9. Weapons systems still operational. Lieutenant Tanaka's fingers flew across her console. The Achilles has lost its forward shields. The Iron Wolf is venting atmosphere on the starboard side. Tell them to patch what they can and keep fighting. Cole pointed at the Kreth fleet on the main display. Navigation, give me a ramming solution on that carrier. The navigation officer turned to look at him. Sir, you heard me? Ramming solution. That carrier is launching fighters. I want it stopped. The officer swallowed hard and turned back to his console. Ramming solution calculated. 45 seconds to impact. All hands, brace for impact. Cole grabbed the ship's intercom. This is the Admiral. We are about to hit a Kreth carrier. It is going to hurt. But I promise you, it is going to hurt them a lot more. The Prometheus surged forward, its remaining engines burning at full power. The Kreth carrier tried to turn away, but it was too slow. The human destroyer slammed into its midsection like a fist, tearing through armor and bulkheads and everything in its path. The carrier broke in half. Its reactor went critical. A ball of fire bloomed in the darkness of space, consuming the Kreth vessel and everything around it. The Prometheus emerged from the other side, burning and broken but still alive. Still fighting. Warlord Sithax watched in disbelief. They used their own ship as a weapon. They are insane. Warlord, we are losing ships. 7 vessels destroyed. 3 more heavily damaged. That is impossible. They have 11 ships. We have 34. But the numbers did not matter anymore. The humans were inside the Kreth formation now, weaving between the larger warships with deadly precision. They were not fighting like a fleet. They were fighting like a pack of wolves, each ship covering the others, each crew trusting their companions with their lives. The Leviathan was the worst of them. The massive human dreadnought had taken more damage than any ship should be able to survive. Its hull was cratered with blast marks. Entire sections were open to space. But Captain Rodriguez refused to retreat. She drove her ship straight at the heart of the Kreth fleet, her weapons firing constantly. "Target their command ship," Rodriguez ordered. "I want that warlord's head on my wall." The Leviathan's main gun spoke, and 2 more Kreth vessels died in his command chair. Sithax felt something he had never felt before. Real fear. Pure, animal fear. The humans were not fighting for territory or resources. They were not fighting for glory or power. They were fighting with a fury that he could not understand. They were fighting like the universe itself had made them angry. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human dreadnought," Sithax commanded. "Destroy it. Destroy it now." 20 Kreth ships turned their weapons on the Leviathan. The human dreadnought disappeared behind a wall of explosions. For a moment, Sithax thought it was over. He thought they had finally killed the monster. Then the Leviathan emerged from the fire, still moving, still shooting. Its armor was melted in places. Whole sections of the ship were gone, but its engines were still burning, and its weapons were still working. And as Sithax watched, the human dreadnought launched a spread of missiles that turned 3 more Kreth ships into expanding clouds of debris. "How?" Sithax whispered. "How are they still alive?" He did not understand. He could not understand. The humans came from a world where death waited around every corner. They had evolved to survive the impossible. Their bodies healed faster than other species. Their minds pushed through pain that would break anyone else. Their ships were built with the same philosophy, designed to keep fighting long after they should have been destroyed. The Kreth were conquerors. The humans were survivors. And in this moment, Sithax learned the difference. 15 minutes into the battle, the Kreth fleet began to break. Ships that had never retreated from anyone started to turn away from the human fleet. Crews that had conquered dozens of worlds suddenly wanted nothing more than to escape. But the humans would not let them go. "No retreat," Admiral Cole ordered from his broken ship. "They came here to kill civilians. They do not get to run away." The human fleet spread out, hunting the fleeing Kreth ships with patient determination. One by one, the Kreth vessels were caught and destroyed. Some surrendered, their crews begging for mercy over the radio. The humans accepted their surrender and moved on to the next target. They were efficient. They were relentless. And they were terrifying. 17 minutes after the first shot, Warlord Sithax watched his fleet die. 34 warships reduced to debris and escape pods. His mighty dreadnought was crippled, drifting without power, surrounded by the wreckage of his ambitions. A human frigate approached his escape pod. A voice came over the radio, calm and professional. "This is the U.E.N.'s Valkyrie. Surrender accepted. You will be delivered to Galactic Accord authorities for trial. Medical teams are available if you have wounded." Sithax stared at the radio in disbelief. The humans had just destroyed his entire fleet. They had fought like demons, taking damage that would have killed any other species 10 times over. And now they were offering him medical assistance. "Why?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Why did you come here? These are not your people. This is not your territory. Why would you die for strangers?" There was a pause on the radio. Then a different voice answered, older and tired. It was Admiral Cole. Because someone was in trouble and we could help. That is all the reason we ever need. Siphax did not understand. He would never understand. He was a conqueror. The humans were something else entirely. Something he had no word for. Something that scared him more than death itself. The battle for Outpost 17 was over. The Kreth had lost. And the galaxy would never look at the Death World the same way again. The shuttle from the Prometheus docked with Outpost 17 30 minutes after the last Kreth ship was destroyed. Ambassador Valith stood at the airlock with her security team, watching the door with all 4 of her eyes. Her glow was dim with fear. The monsters were coming. The Deathworlders who had just destroyed an entire fleet in less than 20 minutes were about to walk onto her station, thought she had ordered all civilians to stay in their quarters. She had told her security team to keep their weapons hidden. She did not know what the humans wanted, but she knew that fighting them would be suicide. The only option was to wait and see. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss. Admiral Jonathan Cole stepped through. He was tall for a human, just over 6 feet, with gray hair and tired eyes. His uniform was torn in several places, and there was a bandage wrapped around his left arm. Behind him came 2 other humans, both carrying medical bags instead of weapons. Valith had expected monsters. She had expected creatures of violence and rage. But the man standing before her looked more like a weary father than a conquering warrior. Ambassador Valith? Cole asked. His voice was softer than she had expected. I am she. Valith forced herself to stand straight. You are Admiral Cole of the Earth Fleet. Yes, ma'am. Cole looked around the command center, taking in the damaged equipment and the frightened faces. Your people are safe now. The Kreth fleet has been neutralized. My engineers are already working on patching your hull breaches, and we have medical frigates incoming for your wounded. Valith stared at him. You came here to help us? Yes, ma'am. That is why we came. But we are not part of your territory. We have never offered your people kindness. The Galactic Accord does not even allow you to enter our space. Valith's glow flickered with confusion. Our people tell stories about you. They say you are monsters. Savage creatures from a death world. Why would you risk your lives for strangers who fear you? Cole smiled, but it was a sad smile. We know what the galaxy thinks of us. We have heard all the stories. Monsters, Deathworlders, creatures too dangerous to be trusted. He walked to the viewing window and looked out at the wreckage of the Kreth fleet. And maybe some of those stories are true. Our world did shape us into something different. Something that other species find frightening. He turned back to face her. But that is exactly why we came. Our planet tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. Ice ages, plagues, predators, disasters. We survived because we learned to protect each other. We learned that when someone screams for help, you answer. When someone weaker needs protection, you give it. When children are in danger, you fight until your last breath. Valith's glow began to change. The dim fear was fading, replaced by something warmer. Your world made you into warriors. Our world made us into guardians. Cole shook his head. The Kreth thinks strength is about taking things from others. We think strength is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. That is the difference between a predator and a sheepdog, Ambassador. We are not here to hurt anyone. We are here to make sure the predators know there is always someone willing to fight back. There was a commotion at the door. Valith turned to see human medics moving through the station, carrying equipment and speaking softly to frightened Silurians. One of them, a young woman with dark hair, was kneeling beside a Silurian child, offering her a small package of food. What is happening? Valith asked. My people are helping yours, Cole said simply. We brought medical supplies, food, engineering equipment. Whatever you need, we will provide. No payment required. No treaties necessary. We help because it is the right thing to do. Valith watched the human woman talk to the Silurian child. The little girl's glow was shifting from fear to curiosity. She reached out with one thin finger and touched the human's hand. "Your skin is warm," the child said. The human woman smiled. "Yours is cool, but that is okay. Different is not bad. Different is just different." Valith felt something break inside her. All her life, she had been taught that humans were dangerous, that they were barely controlled savages who would destroy everything they touched. But the creatures on her station right now were not monsters. They were kind. They were gentle. They had just fought a terrible battle, and now they were offering food to children and treating wounds. "The Galactic Accord will not understand this," Valith said quietly. "They will demand explanations. They will want treaties and agreements and guarantees. Let them." Cole shrugged. "We did not come here for politics. We came because someone sent out a cry for help, and we can answer. That is what humans do. That is what we have always done." He held out his hand, palm up. Valith knew this was a human gesture of greeting and trust. She hesitated for only a moment before reaching out to touch his fingers with her own. His skin was warm, just as the child had said, and his grip was strong but careful, as if he was afraid of hurting her. "I will tell them," Valith said. "When I make my report to the Galactic Accord, I will tell them what happened here today. I will tell them that when we called out into the darkness, we expected wolves." Her glow brightened until she was almost shining. "Instead, we found our guardians." Cole's tired face softened into a real smile. "That is all we ever wanted to be, Ambassador. Just give us a chance." In the crew quarters below, Lisha held her daughter and cried. But for the first time in hours, the tears were not from fear. A human medic had just finished checking them both for injuries. He'd been so careful, so gentle with the little girl. He'd given her a piece of something called chocolate and had laughed when she made a face at the strange taste. "Mother," the little girl said, "I like the big aliens. They are nice." Lisha looked at the human medic, who was already moving to the next family. He caught her eye and nodded once, a simple gesture of reassurance. "Yes, my love," Lisha whispered. "They are nice." 3 days later, the human fleet prepared to leave Outpost 17. The station was repaired. The wounded were healed. The Kreth prisoners had been transferred to Galactic Accord custody. There was nothing left to do except say goodbye. Ambassador Valith stood at the main airlock as Admiral. Cole prepared to board his shuttle. The Prometheus was still in rough shape, but it was strong enough to make the journey home. "What will you do now?" Valith asked. "Go home. Fix our ships. Wait for the next time someone needs help." Cole smiled. "It is what we do. The galaxy will hear about this. Everything will change. Maybe, or maybe not." Cole stepped toward the airlock, then paused. "Can I give you some advice, Ambassador?" "Please. Do not be afraid of change. The galaxy has spent a long time keeping species apart, building walls between the different and the familiar. But walls do not make you safer. They just make you lonelier." He gestured toward the stars beyond the viewing window. "Out there, you will find creatures that want to hurt you, but you will also find creatures that want to help you. The trick is learning to tell the difference." Valith nodded slowly. "And how do you tell the difference?" "You look at what they do when no one is watching. You look at how they treat people who cannot help them in return." Cole stepped into the airlock. "The Kreth came here to take. We came here to give. That is all the difference that matters." The airlock closed. A few minutes later, the human shuttle detached from the station and flew toward the waiting fleet. Valith watched until the last ship disappeared into fold space, leaving only stars behind. The galaxy would change. She was sure of it now. The story of Outpost 17 would spread from system to system, from species to species. Some would believe it. Some would not. But the truth would remain when the Silurians had cried out for help. The monsters had answered Dot, and the monsters had turned out to be guardians all along. Valeth turned away from the window and walked back to her command center. There was work to be done. Reports to file. Messages to send. The future was waiting, and for the first time in a long time, she was not afraid of it. Somewhere out in the darkness, the Deathworlders were going home. But they would be back. Whenever someone needed help, wherever innocent people were in danger, they would come. That was their gift to the galaxy. That was who they were, and the galaxy was just beginning to understand.